Welcome back to the Enlightened Misfits podcast, where we talk about human design, emotional intelligence, nervous system healing, and building a life and business that honors who you actually came here for. I'm your host, Lauren Perlingi, an intuitive human design business guide, trauma-informed healer, the founder of the Mermaid Light, and I help sensitive, intuitive humans and also women. I say humans because we are humans that need to help regulate our nervous systems, trust your voice, and create businesses that align with your energetic blueprint so success feels sustainable instead of exhausting. So today's conversation is going to be a very powerful one. We're diving into mindset, spirituality, human design. Also, I have Jonathan. He is a 6'2" splenic projector, and as most of you guys know, I am a 6'2" emotional projector. So this is going to be an amazing conversation between two projectors and our insight on navigating life's challenges and evolving into what you're meant to be. So, welcome, Jonathan. I'm so happy to have you here with us. And for our listeners that may be meeting you for the first time, I would love for you to introduce yourself in your own words and share a little bit more about your journey and what led you to the work that you're doing today.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's always great to be in conversation with another projector. So very much looking forward to this.
Yeah.
Um, so as we were just briefly talking about before we hit record,
Yeah.
you mentioned that you don't pre-plan and you just really go with the intuitive flow, and that's the same way that I flow.
Yeah.
So you just asked for me to introduce myself. I have nothing written out. I've got an idea. So, born in Germany, raised in Canada, was back in Europe for a year, and now I'm back in Canada. So, quite a bit of flipping around the world in over the course of my life, and having had all of these experiences, it gave me a really big world view. So, as a 6'2" individual, having that larger overview of life. So that's really where my passion is, and helping people look at life from that place as well, to see, to see the overview. And then my main gate is gate number 9, the gate of focus. So overview and then focusing in. So
Yeah.
that's a little bit about me. How I got into spirituality is actually my youngest brother introduced me to meditation many years ago, and I've gone through a whole bunch of different experiences, in both in very specific controlled settings, like Buddhist monastery in Nepal 13 years ago, and then just day-to-day meditations that I do. And then throughout my day, it's just different little mindset shifts that I like to bring into my life. So very holistic kind of way of approaching my spirituality. So
I love that.
yeah,
Yeah. I love
that's a little bit about me.
I love that. And that's when you say you don't have anything written down and it flows, I feel like when people it's very like structured and like for me it's like not so authentic, and I think that especially where we are in today's world, that authenticity is what magnetizes you to people, right? Like I've seen that it's like if you can tell, it's like the energy behind it, frequency, I should say. And it's
Yeah.
kind of like and it kind of shows if it's in your business, in your relationships, or, wherever with yourself. Um, so yeah, I mean, I get on podcasts too as a podcast host. And when people ask me, I'm like, where do I start? Where is the story that I start at? Because like you said, that sixth line, I feel like I was more of a line three. Like I know that, you have to kind of move through that trial and error, like for like
Of
three
course.
sections of your life, right? And I
Yeah.
feel like those sections of my life kind of lasted longer than they needed to.
Oh,
You
really?
know? Yeah. So kind of going back to your like before you did what you did now. Like was there like a moment, or do you do now? Was there like a moment Well, what was like the defining moment for you of why you kind of switched more onto this path versus where you started, um, maybe in
Yeah.
like your 20s,
Yeah,
early years.
in my late teens, early 20s, I
Yeah.
got into the automotive industry, and
Okay.
I'm still connected to the automotive industry to some degree.
Yeah.
So I love being able to take apart a vehicle and, fix it up and be able to go, oh, this vehicle came to me not running, and now it runs damn near perfectly. So that's still one of my passions. And
Hmm.
I also knew that there was a big part of me that really wanted to work one-on-one with people. And
Hmm.
so over the years, I've been, diving into different spiritual practices and spiritual kind of ideas.
Hmm.
And then I was exposed to human design uh, like 7, 8 years ago.
Okay.
Got an invitation to start doing readings, and yeah, and so that's the really one of the foundational tools that I've been using. And so
Hmm.
right around then was kind of that pivot point where, okay, how do I integrate everything that I learned in my automotive career and in this one-on-one work that I do? And it's a really, really cool fusion in my mind to be able to go, okay, let's look at what you're working with, you
Right.
as in you, my client, and
Right.
then
Yeah.
find that needle in the haystack and make that minute little adjustment, and then create a plan as to how to really implement that change. Because it's one thing to go, okay, yes, love and light, and like, oh yeah, woo woo woo,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
how do you implement that, right? So
Right.
that's yeah, it's been phenomenal to be able to do all of that holistically.
Yeah. And I love that you say the love and light because like the love and light was always like I never was one of those love and light like we're all light and we all, it doesn't make somebody else special or we all have darkness inside of us too, like which makes us balance, So it's kind of like for human it's probably been around 10 years for me too. So I probably start
Okay.
implementing it really probably like let's be honest, like probably 7 or 8 years too. So it was definitely like for me, it was definitely like a permission slip to, because I thought I was a generator my whole life. And like when I pulled my chart for the first time, I was like, well, no, this is not right. This can't be right. And then I'm like, this is not how I operate it. Like but then I had multiple experiences with burnout when I was in my other career. So before was an entrepreneur. So it was I went back to, oh, I'm designed this way. So I need to actually it's either like alignment versus not alignment. And I think that that's where it comes to like, people talk about this buzzword about authenticity too. And it's like, well, are you in alignment or are you out of alignment? Because like for me,
Yeah.
that's the only two like things that I've seen or and still seen. What would you agree to that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I totally resonate with that thinking that I'm a man or generator,
Yeah.
and being raised as a generator by a projector mother. A
Oh,
6'2" emotional projector mother who
that's
was
interesting.
operating as a manifesting generator because,
Yeah.
the situation had to have her run as that. So a
Yeah.
lot of unwinding to do within myself to really step into that authentic, aligned place to go, okay, even though I've seen this, even though this has been imprinted into my being, okay,
Right.
it's probably a good idea to take a few extra moments to breathe and really relax and take that time that I really require to be able to operate at the best, in the best, most successful way possible.
Yeah, that's so interesting because I'm a 6-2 emotional. Not that I'm your mom, but I mean,
Yeah.
that's it. That's so it's so synchronistic when things like that happen. Like when you're like you meet somebody for the first time, and you're like, I feel like I know this person. I met them before, and like you haven't. We haven't met before.
Right.
So it's just very interesting. Um, so kind of going back onto what you do, like your work that you do here. What would you say was like through exploring your like the spiritual traditions, what would you say which teaching influenced you the most to
Oh,
understand suffering, healing, or even like personal transformation?
mm, hands down, A Course in Miracles.
Mhm.
That's have you heard of A
Yeah,
Course in Miracles? Okay,
yeah.
perfect. Yeah, yeah. That is, yeah. So even more foundational to who I am. It's because I can't explain it, but for whatever reason, there's just this knowingness in myself that is like, yeah, I feel like I am part of God. And I know
Mhm.
that everyone else is part of God, and there's that divine, eternal spark within each of us that really gets muddled and not very clear, and we kind of forget that. So that's where I really try to step back to at as often as possible. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, for like the listeners or the watchers, could you explain a little bit more about what the Course in Miracles is
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
people that don't know?
Yeah, for sure. So, A Course in Miracles is this thought system, not a religion, not, I think it even says in the text that it's not a spiritual practice. It's just a thought system.
Right.
And the way that it came about, according to A Course in Miracles, is that Jesus, the original Jesus, was channeled through this individual back in the 60s, and she wrote down everything that was coming through her. So pretty much what it says in the text is that we're all part of God.
Hmm.
We are in a dream, and we have forgotten that we are part of God. And any kind of negative experiences that happen are, um, yeah, just because we have forgotten. We're all and we all just need to remember our true origin, and that the one of the things in there as well is this whole idea of forgiveness, that it's not the, oh, I forgive you for doing that. Forgiveness is seen as, I know that this is just a dream, and for forgiving the fact
Yeah.
that this didn't actually really happen, and I see the divinity in you as much as I see within myself.
Yeah. I think it's a really for anybody listening or watching, go check it out because I think it's really, I've done it multiple times. Like I feel like I always feel drawn or come back, like go back to it. I think it's been a little bit since I've actually kind of went back to it, but maybe this is just my reminder that I need to go back to it. I think it's really powerful, especially like if you are, we talk a lot about like relationships on the podcast here and, specifically relationships with ourselves and spirituality and healing. And I really feel like when you're looking at like something external from yourself, like it's just a mirror back to what needs to change within you or what you need to evolve from or let go of or learn from or whatever. And I think that that is really powerful from like what I've learned from the A Course in Miracles, because I think that those teachings influences, um, I heard something the other day. What did it was like the ego likes to suffer and
Yes.
that's our humanness. So it's like understanding that suffering versus what your truest self wants, which is your soul, heart, whatever, then you can see the difference. Because I think I asked a question to my membership. I said, what is the difference between your ego voice and your true voice? And
Mm.
they couldn't answer that. And I was like, okay, let me figure out how I can explain this, because I understand it, because when somebody would ask me that probably 5 years ago, I'd be like, it's the same voice, because it probably was the same voice.
Right.
So going into like relationships, can you kind of explain to the listeners kind of where you pivoted into where your focus is right now and how you help clients?
Yeah, yeah. I always loved working with relationships, but I
Mhm.
was finding that there was a hang up in there, and I don't remember how this came about, but this in my journey, I have specifically in the last couple of years, I've really started to pivot to working specifically with women that haven't had that experience of being really held by that masculine container. The emotionally um, intelligent, emotionally solid masculine that can really help guide them into whatever direction that they want to go.
Mhm.
So yeah, so that's kind of more of the side where I'm coming from, is that the relationships, but focused specifically more so on the women that want to grow themselves, and of course, like, I'm always keeping my eyes out for anybody that does this kind of work with men as well, because we need, we need the equal playing field, right? If we've got really, really strong, um, emotionally available feminine women, where's the counterbalance to that? So, if you know of anybody, please send them my way. I would
Yeah.
love to. I would love to keep getting more guys onto this path.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think there's actually a couple podcast guests that are like helping, like men kind of come in more into their uh, like feminine energy. So I think that, yeah, well,
yeah,
I'll definitely have to connect you like guys, because I think that
yeah,
that is, it's powerful because, like in society, and I say this all the time too, of like, like men aren't allowed to show their emotions. They're not allowed to be, they're shamed. It's like that huge shame wound of like, they're not enough. They're not doing enough. They have to do this. They have to be providers. They have to, like all of that stuff that came generational. It's like now it's shifting versus like, you know, more being authentic and, healing those generational patterns and like being aware of that. And I think it's really
of course.
powerful too, because we need them. We need you guys.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We
We
do.
we we can't just do, I know that there's part of the world that is like this toxic feminine, I can do it myself, and it's just like that's also not okay. I
No,
mean, it's okay
that's
for
yeah,
them, but it's like,
yeah,
there needs to be some type of balance. And balance is kind of like a tricky word too, because like what is really balance, right?
right, yeah.
You know,
And that goes back to the authenticity, right? What
right,
is what is balanced for you is different to balanced for me, right?
right.
What is
Yeah,
balanced for one couple is totally unbalanced for another couple.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, very, very much, very nuanced. That's my favorite word these days. Nuance.
Nuance. Yeah, because it's true. Like, and especially too, do you come from the lens of human design to understand the um energy in the relationships?
Oh,
That is
yes.
a tool.
Of
Yeah.
course, yeah. So first, my first step is getting the women totally solid in who they are,
Hmm.
and really help them understand themselves through that permission slip that human design gives. One of my
Right.
clients right now, one of her main gates is gate number two. But she was raised in number two, for people who don't know, is the most feminine gate in the whole human design system.
Right.
And but she was similarly to me, raised as a generator or a manifesting generator. So she's very much, go, 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 you know,
Mm.
I can do everything myself, but she doesn't want to be there, right? So I've been helping her remember that, okay, this is who you chose to be in this life. You've got this number two gate. You've got the gate number 10, which is all about that self-love. Let's work with
Yeah.
that. Let's get you to this beautiful, heartfelt self-love place where you're able to then open yourself up and attract your king, as she likes to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do that gate 10 is really magnetic. I have that gate 10 too as well. And I noticed through my own journey that I attracted the same person that I attracted a partner of how I felt about like how I also felt about myself. So like not loving myself, hating myself, going through all of those like, trials and tribulations and trial and error periods of like what I don't want. And then I kept again what I was thinking, feeling, the universe has very short vocabulary. I like so be it. So it was like, okay, this is how you think, feel, and act. This is exactly what you're going to get. So I didn't realize how powerful that gate 10 was until I was
Hmm.
like, was like, that's not working anymore. So let me try this. And then it like flipped to, you know, magnetizing the person that I actually did desire versus what I thought. Like it's interesting how that happens. And I think that a lot of people, probably still now, I hear a lot of people of like, oh, I'm just going to be single the rest of my life. Oh, I want this person. And it's like that question of like, but how do you think and feel about yourself? Like, what are you allowing? I think that that's really powerful too when it comes to
Hmm.
that. Or again, like you said, looking at childhood too, right? So kind of like where do you start? Like if like if the listeners are listening, like, okay, so like where besides like obviously they need to go work with you, where would they start to even understand, you know, how human design works for them and how it also works like in relationship?
Mm. Well, you can always set up a 90-minute free consultation with me and I'll, get you get you going on that basic understanding of human design, and then we'll be able to go forward from there if it's a match for both of us.
Yeah.
Then in general, there are so many resources, free resources online. You're able to go and just start to understand a little bit about yourself in human design. And then, oh, well, look at that. I'm a sacral generator. Okay, well, what does that mean? Well, best are yes or no questions. Okay, working with that guttural, right? So I would highly recommend to just start looking at first off your strategy and then your authority in human design, and then integrate that into your relationships, and then let people know, okay, well, mom and dad, I realized this about myself. When we're talking, can you just keep that in mind? Hey, sibling, can you keep that in mind? And then just start playing with it and have fun. We're not here to like be serious and get into that ego mode of like, I want to suffer. Let's bring in some joy and let some light
Yeah.
into the experience. So just, yeah, just start playing with it.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you said about the joy and happiness. And like when I ask people that question, because like I often feel like, again, when the ego is running the show, it's like, how much can we suffer? How much can we constantly go back into that like suffering, or feeling of suffering? That I've noticed that a lot of people don't even know what joy or happiness,
Mhm.
feels like to them. And I think that that is a huge place, like you said, to start like your passion, even though that don't, do, are like only in the all the auto industry, like it's still a passion of yours. So you like, saying that you weaved it into what you do now. And I think that
Oh yeah.
like nurturing that passion
Yes,
is
yes.
important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I uh, I just remembered what you had commented on briefly before is that that knowing if it's the ego or if it's your authentic self that is
Yeah.
running the show, yeah, or
Yeah.
that voice.
Hmm.
Are you okay if I share a quick little exercise that I go through when
Sure.
I'm trying to
Yeah.
decide?
Of
Okay.
course. Yeah.
Okay. So when I'm going about my day and I've got an invitation or a decision to make,
Hmm.
and I, I try to ask myself, okay, what what is involved and what am I trying to get away from or what am I trying to avoid in this
Mm.
situation? And if it comes down to you know, the afraid of being like alone, dying, being unlovable, something along those like kind of feelings,
Right.
that's probably going to be my ego.
Right.
If I can't explain what I'm trying to get away from and I can't explain what I'm trying to get towards, it's most likely going to be just this authentic, um, yeah, this authentic voice within myself, my spleen, saying, "Yeah, let's try this out. Let's see." You know, for example, like having moved, I moved to Europe just over a year ago, or about a year ago. And at that point in time, I got the invitation to move, and everything in my ego and that logical brain was saying, don't stay here. You've got the solid foundation here. You've got your job, you've got your house, you've got your different family members, friends. Everything is good, solid, comfortable here. So
Right.
yeah, I would be with me not moving, I'd be avoiding that potential, that potential upset. But I couldn't explain why I wanted to accept that invitation. And so I ended up moving. And I had a phenomenal year in Eastern Europe with amazing people, amazing culture, amazing music and art everywhere. And then I got an invitation to go back to Canada. So again, it's like, oh man, but I've got this comfortable life in Eastern Europe. Like I don't want to leave. But my fiance is still over there right now. And like I like this is so beautiful, it's so comfortable, it's so like I can't imagine leaving this.
Right.
But yet my spleen was just saying, no, you just got to go. And thankfully, my fiance is oh beautifully aligned within herself and is able
Right.
to be that feminine strength of okay, I know you got to go, and then so we're doing the long distance thing for now. So a little bit of
Yeah.
an example as to is it the ego or is it authentic inspiration coming through?
Yeah. And thank you for sharing that because I think that is, I shouldn't say I think, I know that is a huge part of decision making of like, do I do this? Do I do this? Do I let fear take over? Do I let comfortability or, what I've been hearing a lot from my own clients is like, oh, that's out of my comfort zone. And I'm like, well, that's where you need to be. What are we doing here? Like, where did we get lost on the road of like we're staying in our comfort zone? Because I feel like it's just kind of like, is this for me versus is this not for me? And it's like listening to that authority and like being able to be like, I trust myself enough. It's like that self-trust. And I know it comes over time of like, yes, or it could take of you going down the wrong path that you maybe didn't make that decision and then learning that lesson versus having that experience. And I've done both. So it's like I know when I don't listen to my authority, what happens and do I want to go down that versus, like you said, it's a good, like, what am I avoiding? And I think that it's more of like, I feel like that's more an effective way to say it. So thank you for that example. I think that just people like reminding themselves of that is going to be huge when it comes to, well, one, they got to figure out if you're listening, you got to figure out your authority. What,
Right?
go pull your chart and figure out your authority. Because if you're an emotional authority, you shouldn't be making instant decisions at all. So
Nope.
don't do that. Well, you can do that, but you're also going to learn a lesson around that too.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, very much so. Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel for the individuals that have that Gates, was it 29, and the emotional authority. So that instant yes
Yeah.
and needing to take the time. It's like, oh, okay, you've got
Yeah.
like two horses going into opposite directions here. So
Yes. Yeah.
And
Now,
if this episode is bringing something up for you, especially around relationships, people pleasing, overgiving, emotional triggers, or repeating the same patterns, I want you to grab my ebook. This ebook will help you start seeing the subconscious patterns that have been running your life, your relationships, and your reactions, so that you can finally release what no longer feels aligned. It's not about blaming yourself. It's about understanding yourself, regulating your nervous system, and choosing different from a place of self-trust. If you're ready to stop repeating the same cycles and come back home to yourself, grab my ebook. The link is below in the show notes.
now speaking about going like back to like human design, how, like, if somebody was like curious around, maybe their human design or spirituality, or what are some simple ways that they can kind of explore the connection from being grounded and authentic, maybe using human design or maybe another spiritual tool? Like, what is something that you would say to them, just a simple ways that they can kind of explore these connections?
hmm, that's a really good question. Making me think.
I
Um, so how,
think it's a huge, it's a huge question that people are like, because they
yeah.
think human design is like woo woo and, oh, that's not real. Or astrology. And it's like, it's kind of like, well, I mean, just experience it. It's like an experience, right?
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
and yeah, and I totally forgot about that part. Is like, oh yeah, there's that woo-woo aspect to
Yeah.
it. But at the same time, if you're playing with it and it works, who cares, right?
Right.
If
Yeah.
somebody from if somebody from even 100 years ago came to today's world and looked at a cell phone, they're like, oh, this is witchcraft, right? Because they
Right.
can't explain it, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
let's just imagine that we are the individuals that are playing with technology that we just haven't figured out yet.
Hmm.
That, probably in 100 or 200 years, there will be more science to understand how all of this works.
Hmm.
Not saying that science has to explain it, but whatever the case is, just take the monkey mind aside, relax, breathe, play with it, try it out. It's like putting on a new pair of shoes. Do they fit? Yeah. I'll go walk around the block. All right, good.
Right.
Are they going to be the perfect shoe for every occasion? No. Just
Right.
put them aside when it's not useful right then. Is it going to be useful for me to bring out the spirituality in the automotive industry? No. So I put it aside.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for the skeptics out there, um, when it comes to astrology, human design, all of the woo-woo topics,
Mhm.
well, does the moon have an impact on the how the world operates? Yes, right? The tides rise and fall, depending on where the moon is. And so, okay, there is that whole thing of gravity. It is statistically the case that things go a little bit haywire when it's a full moon out, right?
Right.
Statistically, there's more hospitalizations, all of this kind of stuff. So there is some kind of a correlation that we just can't quite explain. So just relax, put all of the ideas and opinions aside and just play.
Yeah. I love that, especially too, because like human design, like the way that I explain it too is like, these are the some people that believe in Wi-Fi, but they can't see Wi-Fi. They just believe that it works because they're looking at their phone and they have Wi-Fi. So it's like in my mind, I'm thinking, why do you believe that, but you don't believe that the planets affect us or like what's above, so below? Like same thing with the moon, like you just said about, it plays a huge part into like how we operate or what the planets are doing up there. It's affecting down here, like, so it's like the same thing with, human design and like electricity. It's like, you turn that light switch on, right? And you have electric. Like if there's something not connected, it's not going to come on. Like just kind of, it's more of like, be curious of like, why does
Yeah.
it? I mean, that's in my chart, in my design, right? Like I'm very curious and I want to understand why this happens and why you don't believe it and explain it to me. Like I want to understand your perspective. So I think that getting curious, like people are very curious and like, oh, like, because I just randomly say stuff and people are like, oh, I never knew that. Okay, tell me more about that. Because it's just very, very interesting, right?
Yeah.
So, for any listeners that are maybe new to human design or just maybe they're in a place of like, I have a good relationship with myself or it's a better relationship with myself. Can you kind of like walk us through like what it would be like working with you?
Hmm. Yeah. Yes. First, though, I apologize for grabbing my notebook and just writing down here what you just
Oh,
said
that's
about
okay.
if it's not connected, it won't turn on. You said those exact words.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that is so true for us as well. If we're not connected to ourselves, we
Yeah.
won't turn on, right?
Yeah.
So if we're
Yeah.
not connected, we can't be our authentic selves and we can't shine. So
Right.
thank you for that. I
Oh, no.
appreciate I appreciate that just flowing out of your mouth. That's awesome.
That's what happens when you're connected.
Yes.
Or like that's why I'm like I love being on my podcast because it's where I shine. It's a huge part of, like my purpose here. And it's like connection one, but also just having a conversation with like like-minded individuals that I don't have to like, it just flows, like it's just we have fun here, it's conversation, and then, meet new people. And I think it's just great. And I think that is, what we need more of in the world.
Awesome. Yeah. I love that. Um, so yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for doing what you're passionate about and what you're here to
Oh
do
yeah,
in
of
the world.
course.
And back to your question there that you'd put out about what working with me looks like.
Mhm.
So first off, seeing if it is a good fit, because I've and as a projector, I know I've got a very, very precise bandwidth that I love to work with. So I've got a very, very small amount of clientele that I work with and that I choose to work with. So first off, figuring out if it's a good fit, and then getting into the nitty-gritty of what the client's human design is, what your values are, what your goals are, and looking as much into the big picture as to where this individual wants to go, and then also into the nitty gritty little details to see, okay, how how can we get you from A to, Z, as Canadians say, Z for all you Americans. Um, so
It's funny.
that's a very, very broad overlook as to the first couple of sessions. And then from there, just continuing to work with the individual's authority and strategy, of course, to make sure that we're staying on track with their goals. I try to put in some metrics as well to be able to kind of gauge how the client is feeling about their confidence and how they're moving in towards their trajectory or in towards their target on that trajectory. And yeah, and then just getting into that a really good weekly or bi-weekly groove.
Yeah, I love that. Now, somebody that like, combine like is you or somebody that combines like human design, it seems like from what you have said, this, our conversation into like deep listening, like empathy and insights from, just different spiritual practices that you've used or you use with your clients. Like,
Yeah.
how does this make the different modalities that you work together support people in their healing or like their personal evolution?
How?
Hmm.
I can't explain that. It's this is me speaking from the splenic, and I've got the also the channel of initiation, so the channel of the shaman. So
Okay.
everything happens so much on a subconscious level within myself that it just comes to me, and it's very, very situational as to the kind of guidance that I give and which guidance I give depending on the situation and with my history. Because like I've had um, probably dozens of different experiences with different healing modalities, and my own journey through A Course in Miracles. Like I mentioned, some Buddhism in there as well.
Hmm.
Extensive amounts of meditation, Vipassana retreat, ayahuasca, like you name it, and there's a very strong possibility that I've used a healing modality for myself. So just the thing is, take what I've learned in the first 29 years of my life, and I do my best to have all of that information get channeled specifically to what my client needs.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's it. That you were like, how? I'm like, yeah, how?
Yeah.
You did an amazing job of explaining how. I just think it's
Oh,
really
thank you.
interesting, like the work, like that your story attached to like everything that you do now. I mean, I know being a splenic projector, your intuition operates like in a very unique way.
Oh, yes.
Um, but like that intuitive awareness, like can you share how that intuitive awareness shows up in your life and how it kind of guides you through the work that you do with your clients?
Mm. Um, how Well, I've got the gate of awareness, so I'm constantly bringing in every bit of information that I see. Even in our conversation, I'm looking at your background, I'm seeing it, watching your body language and everything, and listening to the specific words that you're using, looking at the colors that you've got behind you, and all of this is feeding me information for me to help you sell yourself on yourself um, and for you to be able to grow. So an example that I'd be able to provide around all of that, um, yeah, so Just thinking back to very, very recent sessions that I had with different clients. Oh yeah, you're trying to have me explain what is unexplainable to myself.
I'm sorry.
I was no, I'm sorry for not being able to answer your question. It's yeah, it's just intuitive. Like I just can't help but listen to my spleen, and then whatever comes out comes out. And
Well, I think what
usually it
you,
guides people in the way that they need to be guided.
yeah, I think when you said that you are looking at the colors, my body language, what I'm saying, that is that I think when you said that, I was like, oh, okay. To me, that seems like that's exactly how your intuitive awareness works. So maybe that was the answer.
Yeah.
It could not be. I just was, I just wanted to, I'm not a splenic authority. So I guess my question was more of like, how does your intuition operate from that unique way? Because I know that it's very
Okay.
unique versus, so I think that you telling me, about, so I think what I probably want to like showcase for that is like if you have a splenic authority, you could operate very similar to, you know, look if you're obviously on a video call or you're just talking or you're in person, like you're watching what they're like, you're listening to what they're saying, you're watching their body language. Maybe if you're around them, you're, the environment. I think that's all really important things that
Yeah.
are very unique to maybe how I listen to my intuition, which is an emotional authority.
Right.
Riding the
And
wave first, it's much different.
yeah, and one thing I should also mention is that I do my best to shut my brain off
Yeah. Good.
and not even try to think of what the right answer is.
Mhm.
I just I do my best to just open myself up and let the flow happen when the timing is right. Can I explain when that is? No. When
Right.
obviously when there's a question asked of like, oh yeah, what are your thoughts on this? Then I'll just let my spleen talk.
Right.
I guess an example that I've got that's not specifically client based. It was just the other night. I got an invitation to go to a sound bath, and
Oh,
I was like, oh yes, that sounds great. My head was going yes, but my spleen was like, nope, just just tonight you've got to stay in. But I said yes, I would go. And it wasn't for another
um,
3 hours. So I sat down, I ate some dinner, it was relaxing, and about halfway through dinner, I crashed. And I was like, oh, oh no. My spleen was right. I can't go. So I texted the person that invited me and I said, hey man, sorry. I'm so sorry. I know I said that I could go and that I
right.
wanted to go, but I just crashed. So I need to cancel. And of course, he's like, yeah, no problem. But
Yeah.
that's just an example of like I should have listened to my spleen. That little voice in me saying, don't don't go, just say no. Like
Right.
but my ego gets in the way of like, well, but if what if I don't go, and what if I like miss out on like meeting some cool people and being part of this like really like neat experience, you know
Yeah.
back to that example that I'd given earlier, right? What is the ego trying to get away from or get towards? Getting away from being alone, lonely, and potentially missing out, right?
Yeah.
Versus the unexplainable, oh, I shouldn't go. Well, why? I don't know. Right?
Right. Yeah. No, I think that that's really powerful because I mean, again, we're always making decisions, right? And it's like if you don't listen to your authority, like, the way that I explain it for like an emotional authority would be Have you ever had that time where you said yes because you're really excited, and the next week that you actually have to go do it, you're like, why did I fucking say that? I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, me too. I get it. And I still do that sometimes. However, I know when I don't listen to that little voice, not that I try to should on myself, because then that shame comes up of like, just, you know the right answer, you just say it. And it's like, well, I guess sometimes I have to figure out if, like, I'm still trying to figure out my own, each different layer and, journey and evolution, that of like, oh, okay. This is just not going to work out. And like, that's usually how it happens. The universe, if it's not supposed to happen, it's not going to happen. And even though as much as I try to force it to happen, it just doesn't happen? So it's like, okay, whatever. I don't really have control here. So,
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just going
And
to do
yeah,
what I feel is best. And I think that that is probably the biggest thing that we all can like remind ourselves. So
right.
thank you for that
Yeah,
example.
you're welcome. With the shift happening in 2027, I mean, we are all moving towards much more of that kind of place of like, okay, what feels right
Yeah.
for myself?
Yeah.
It changes on a moment to moment basis.
Yes, it sure does.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jonathan, for being here with us and sharing your story and your wisdom truly with us today. This conversation, I feel like, is a very huge and powerful reminder that, like, our challenges, our spiritual evolution, and our healing is part of who we're becoming. And, that who we're here, I should say, chose to be here, because some people don't believe that we all choose to be here. So if you're
No,
listening to this conversation and it resonates with you, make sure you check out and you connect with Jonathan. If you're watching this over on YouTube, his links will be below in the description box. And if you're listening to this, they'll be below in the show notes. So make sure you check out all his links below and continue to learn from him. And if you are somebody navigating your own healing journey, learning to trust your voice and build a life and business that honors your energetic blueprint, I would love to invite you into the Enlightened Misfits Sisterhood. And the Sisterhood is a space for intuitive, heart centered women who are ready to regulate their nervous system, deepen their self awareness, and create aligned visibility or success without burnout. Those links also will be below in the show notes. Thank you so much for being here again with us, Jonathan. And thank you so much
yeah.
for listening to the Enlightened Misfits podcast. And if this episode supported you, please share this with somebody that you feel that would gain knowledge from listening. I hope you have an amazing rest of your week, and I will see you next week.